What's up, everybody? Welcome to the video. This one we're going over my core plays for week 5 of the NFL season on DraftKings and FanDuel. And if you're new here, what we like to do is go position by position, going over the player pool that I have current interest in. We'll put a lump as we progress through it, more so for a single entry tournament build. Then at the end, I'll run my optimizer to see who's popping the most as of right now with the current projections and ownership projections that I have in place. If that sounds good to you, or even if it doesn't for some reason, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, what mean to me in the comments, be rude, call me ugly, or be nice. Doesn't matter to me, but I'd love to hear from you. As always, if you guys ever want access to anything that I do show you here on the screen behind me, including my entire NFL model with the entire slate, not just the few that we're talking about each position here on the video, it's available completely free 4 weeks since Patreon does offer their free week trials, and they completely renovated their entire website, so I recommend going checking it out. But it's available in the link down below in the description or the pinned comment, and you can try it out completely free. 4-week projections, optimizer, ownership projections, cheat sheet, going over cash games, tournaments, and I do cover other sports as well in my Discord community, and I have the entire slate statted out, so if you use that for props, be my guest. But anyway, let's dive into it here, and we'll start at the quarterback position as always. And whether you want to go up high, in the middle, down low, I think we have some options this week. Just keep in mind the quarterback that you choose will put you in a certain direction that you have to go for your entire lineup. So if you're looking to spin up at, say, the running back position, playing guys like Patrick Mahomes, Jalen Hurts is probably not the best idea, because if you really want to jam in Bijan, Derrick Henry, whoever it may be, if you play Mahomes, if you play Hurts, you are stuck in a direction of playing Mahomes, Kelsey, and like a run back option with a Justin Jefferson. And while that's an awesome lineup, especially for tournaments, you are eating up a large chunk of your salary. Same can be said for Jalen Hurts, because then you have to look at guys like A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and your run back options from the Rams are not cheap. Puka is no longer cheap. He's about $8,000. And then you have Cooper Kupp back this week, who doesn't really expect to have any limitations. And he's close to $9,000. However, these are awesome games. Just keep that in mind if you happen to have a preference of wanting to spend up at a certain position. But anyway, let's dive into it here. And I'm going to try to group this by games, because I believe everybody but Tua here is all playing against each other, which makes sense, because when I target quarterbacks, I typically just try to find games that I have a lot of interest in overall, because I like the receiving options or the running backs. I'm obviously going to have to like the quarterbacks of those teams. So we'll start with the Coors Field game of the week. We have the Kansas City Chiefs facing off first the Minnesota Vikings. That's Patrick Mahomes at $8,200 and Kirk Cousins at $6,900. I love both options here. The only problem is that the stacking options are super expensive with Kirk. We have Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson as your two main threats. They have the rookie Jordan Addison, who can obviously make some splash plays, KJ Osborne as well. With Mahomes, it's kind of Kelsey or bust, because the wide receivers are absolute garbage. You have Kadarius Toney, who can't catch a cold. You have Sky Moore, who I don't think Patrick Mahomes knows exists. Marquez Valdez-Scantling can't catch a ball, but he can run deep, and sometimes he can. It's very iffy. Justin Watson, you forget he's on the team until he catches that one pass for 16 yards every week. So you don't really know what to expect. So if you want to play a wide receiver for Mahomes, be my guess, but I don't know how you're going to figure out which one to play, so you just have to get lucky there. But definitely love both these options, probably only for tournaments for me this week. Jalen Hurts, Matthew Stafford, two very different style of quarterbacks. You have Jalen Hurts, who offers a ton of rushing upside and great weapons to get the ball to. Matthew Stafford also has great weapons to get the ball to, but he is not going to offer you really anything at all in the rushing department. Thing is, though, he's about $3,000 cheaper. He's a 4.5-point dog at home. So it's a good game script here. You don't have to worry about any weather. And I just love the weapons in this game. Jalen Hurts, you don't always have to stack with him, but if you are playing tournaments, I would recommend it, because one of A.J. Brown or Devontae Smith should have a pretty big game here. But with his rushing ability, again, you don't have to stack him if you're playing cash games, but in tournaments, I would recommend it. Matthew Stafford, he cannot get there himself, so if you are rostering him, you have to roster at least a couple of pass catchers with him. But you have two main pass catchers here in Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp. Welcome back. He should be in for a pretty decent game here, assuming he is healthy, but I don't think they would rush him back if he wasn't. So assuming he is completely good to go, which they did say he is not expected to have any real limitations, it's still hard to project him for a full-on workload of regular Cooper Kupp stats, which I did not do. I think I have him around 15 points. I could readjust that over the course of this evening / tomorrow morning in case I start to feel a little bit more confident in that. But I have both him and Puka right around 14, 16 points, which I think is a pretty fair assumption. It's kind of hard to tell what is going to happen in that offense with Puka, because he has been so good. He's not going to completely go away. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I like both these options here. Just really depends on what kind of money you have to work with. If you want to spend up at quarterback, go with Jalen Hurts, play AJ Brown, run that back with either Puka or Cooper Kupp. If you roster Matthew Stafford, I would try to roster at least one of them, but honestly, both might not be a bad idea. Throwing that back with a guy like AJ Brown or Devontae Smith. And then we have a cheap game stack here, which I wasn't really on earlier in the week, which is why I like to do these later look videos, because after we get to look at ownership throughout the course of a week and run projections and things like that, some guys pop that you didn't necessarily expect to. And Joe Burrow and Joshua Dobbs here at $5,200 and $6,200 respectively. This Arizona game, while it's a 44.5 point over-under, for DFS purposes, does not look too bad this week. I realize Burrow has been absolutely horrendous this season, hindered by the injury, but also just not playing very good football. And I mean, we're talking less than 200 passing yards per game, which is actually worse than Josh Dobbs. Hard to believe that statement was ever going to be said heading into this season. And T. Higgins, while I expect him to be out, he did practice in a limited fashion today on Friday. So there is a chance he suits up, which obviously would be a bit of a bump for Joe Burrow, but I'm not going to really sway his projection too much either way, whether he plays or not. But we know the Arizona Cardinals defense is obviously nothing to be too concerned about. And if Joe Burrow is going to have a good game at $6,200, I want to be on it, so I'll have to have some exposure here. And then Dobbs, $5,200. He's not the most exciting thing in the world, but he offers you a little bit of rushing upside. And the stacks here are very cheap. So Dobbs at $5,200. You have Marquise Brown, who I believe is in the low 5K range. Then you have Zach Ertz in the mid 3K range. So it's really easy to make this stack work. You can run it back with a guy like Jamar Chase, and you are still going to have money for some other studs at any position. It could be running back, it could be another elite wide receiver, but you can definitely make it work, and that's the fun part of that Arizona-Cincinnati stack. And then last but certainly not least, we have Tua here at $7,100. Absolutely love him this week. He was in my first look video as my quarterback when we were doing the lineup build, but 29.5 implied team total, highest on the slate. Only concern here would be the potential game script if they're blowing out the New York Giants, as they're 11.5 point favorites at home. But if they are blowing them out, decent chance Tua had a good game as well, throwing the Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, whoever it may be. And whenever you can get a quarterback at 7K with the highest total in the slate, a really fun, exciting offense that averages around 300 passing yards per game and over 2 passing touchdowns with some of the best wide receivers in football, you have to have some interest. And moving over to our build here, I always have to mention, do not copy and paste what you see here on YouTube. I build many lineups every single week, and this is just something I build on the fly using the players that we talked about to try to make sense for a single entry type build. If you do copy and paste lineups on YouTube, you deserve to lose, because that's a very non-profitable strategy. But anyway, we have several quarterbacks we can pick from here. I love Tua this week. If I didn't use him in my first look video, I'd probably use him here, but since I did, let's try to get a little bit different, and I want to avoid the expensive quarterbacks for this build just because it's easy to do, because obviously everyone likes Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts. So let's scroll down a little bit, and we'll go with Joe Burrow at $6,200. And if it was any other year, especially last year, when we saw Burrow at $6,200, I think we'd all be about that. But versus Arizona, at some point, he's going to put up a decent game. And it said he has been feeling a little bit better than he has in previous weeks. Obviously, no T. Higgins could hurt the upside maybe a little bit, but you don't need much to hit value here at 62. So we'll plug him in, and whatever adjective you want to use for his season so far, it's probably accurate. Awful, disgusting, terrible, trash, atrocious, vile. It's probably all correct. 3 points versus Cleveland, 16 points versus Baltimore, 9 versus the Rams, and a great matchup last week versus Tennessee, who has an awful pass defense, 5.7 points. So it's only up from here, hopefully. So we'll bite the bullet and take the bait. And moving on to our running backs, you're pretty much going to be living in the 6K range this week, because the expensive options, there's not too many. You do have Derrick Henry, who's not on here. I just prefer Bijan. But CMC, Pollard are not on this slate because they're playing in the Sunday night game. Austin Eckler, theoretically, if he did play, is on a bye week. Nick Chubb's leg is no longer with us. So we're stuck with Bijan up top, which is not a bad thing. It's $7,700. Honestly, seems like a very fair price point. And it's a great matchup versus Houston. So if you don't like him here, I'm not sure when you're ever going to like him. Especially over on FanDuel, $8,200, only being $200 more than Mostert and $300 less than Montgomery. Yeah, if you got the money for him over there, I think that sounds pretty good, but we should get around 20 total touches here. He's averaging over 100 total yards per game, 21% target share, which is pretty good. I know it's a low passing profile offense, but that's still right around 5-ish targets per game as well. So if you like Bijan, if you had the money for him, I like him. So I'll be loading up on him in lineups where I am spending down at the quarterback or wide receiver position. David Montgomery, $6,600. I love him on DraftKings. And a lot of people ask me why I don't do like FanDuel construction videos. Well, mainly it's just because that there's a lot of overlap, and if I like them on DraftKings, I probably like them over on FanDuel. Now, obviously, there's going to be certain situations where that's not the case, and that might be one of those situations this week, because Monty, right play on DraftKings, he's $1,100 cheaper than Bijan, And I'd prefer Bijan, but again, we have to factor in the salaries. But when he's $300 more on FanDuel than Bijan, it's just hard to play Montgomery over a guy like Robinson. He's still like a great play because he doesn't really get too much involvement in the passing game. And on FanDuel, you're basically just looking for guys with high volume that have touchdown equity, which Montgomery certainly has. But that price tag is a tough pill to swallow. So better DK play than he is on FanDuel. This game sets up perfectly for Monty. And almost everybody's hurt on the Detroit Lions. I just got a cluster alert for the Detroit Lions on the injury report on my Discord bot. And looks like Amon-Ra St. Brown is doubtful. Jahmyr Gibbs is questionable with a hamstring issue. Jameson Williams is questionable. Josh Reynolds is questionable. So we could be in line for another heavy dosage of David Montgomery, which has not been a bad thing so far this year for fantasy owners, because even though the yards per carry is terrible, it's below 4. It doesn't matter. The Lions are going to feed him the rock, and he's going to be the goal line back. He's getting 23 carries per game. Fresh off one on Thursday night where he got over 30 carries despite coming off the injury. He's a 10-point favorite at home. The Carolina Panthers run defense has not been that great this year, so love him over on DK. Joe Mixon, if you are not going with the passing attack. Personally, for our build right now, we have Joe Burrow, so we're probably not going to be rostering Joe Mixon here. But if I didn't have Joe Burrow, he would definitely be a candidate. Good spot versus Arizona. Just a inefficient running back, but he's going to get the volume, and it's a good matchup. Alvin Kamara, $6,300. Not loving the spot versus New England, but he's fresh off a game where he had 14 targets in his return. Is he going to get 14 targets again? Probably not. Is he going to get you 10 targets? Probably not. Maybe at some point throughout the season. But I feel like he's a lock for at least 5 to 6 targets. And if you're going to catch the majority of that on a PPR like DraftKings, at $6,600 for a running back that's as talented as Alvin Kamara, very hard to pass up. Love the floor, and the ceiling's pretty high as well. Then we have the 2 Miami running backs, Raheem Mostert and Dewana Chan. I believe that's how you pronounce his name for real. $6,200 and $6,100. Chan, he is going to be the chalkier of the two. So if you are playing tournaments, Raheem Mostert makes a lot of sense because everyone's going to want to play the rookie, which I get. There's a lot of luster there. He's the new shiny toy. He looks amazing on the field. Like if you watch Miami Dolphins games, or if you just look at highlights, looks like he's cheating out there. Like with Tyreek Hill, just the speed absolutely kills. But Raheem Mostert's just really as good. I mean, he's super fast, and his entire career has been extremely efficient. The only issue is that he gets hurt a lot. It's probably going to be a split backfield here. I feel like around the goal line, they prefer to use Achane, but either way, both these guys should be in line for a pretty big day. 11.5-point favorites at home. Extremely high implied team total. We know the Dolphins are going to be around the goal line, so there's a lot of touchdown equity. Both are 100% in play. But I'm going to tell you right now, Achane is not going to keep up at 11.4 yards per carry throughout this season. So at some point, there's going to be some regression. But that's not to say he still can't be an excellent running back for fantasy purposes, especially right around $6,000. DeAndre Swift at $6,000. If you do not have the Philadelphia passing attack, makes sense to get some exposure somehow to this offense because they're going to put up points. If Jalen Hurts doesn't get the rushing touchdowns and there's not a ton happening through the air, DeAndre Swift, who's over 6 yards per carry behind an excellent offensive line, 27.5 implied team total, 4.5-point favorite, makes a lot of sense. And also involvement in the passing game. Then Breece Hall, they said there's not going to be any limitations with him anymore, so they're giving him not full reign of the backfield. Dalvin Cook still exists, but looks like he is going to get the bulk of the work. And at $5,400, he's been pretty good this year. 6.5 yards per carry, just not really getting the volume to show for it. And this is the absolute best matchup you can ask for. Denver just bleeds points to the running back position. Do you guys remember the Dolphins explosion from the running back specifically? That was versus Denver. Chicago Bears running backs last week had another big game. And now Breece Hall, while it's never fun to roster the Jets, you can't ask for a much better matchup. He's a talented back and just needs to get the volume, which it looks like we might get that this week. And moving on to our running backs here. I would like to play Bijan, but I'm personally going to stick with this 6K range for this specific build here. But since I have a cheaper stack, that would totally be a viable option. But I love David Montgomery, and I don't really see myself getting to any Detroit lines in the passing attack here. So I'd plug him in at $6,600. Then after that, we have a really tough decision to make because there is a long list of running backs all right in a row here from Mixon to DeAndre Swift that I have plenty of interest in. Like I said, everyone's going to want to play Achane this week, which I get. He projects well for me, and I think he's a fantastic play. But if we can get Mostert a lower ownership in a very similar spot and hopefully see some similar volume, I realized he got outsnapped last week, but there's some various factors that could have led to that. I do think Achane's probably the better back, but just for ownership purposes, and I want exposure to the Miami Dolphins offense, let's roll with Mostert here just to get a little bit different. Again, in a vacuum, I prefer Achane, but we're trying to be somewhat different without trying to get too crazy on a single entry build. Now we have the pass catchers here, and it's not as confusing as it may look. Just depends on the quarterback of the game stack that you're looking at. So since we have Joe Burrow in our build right now, as much as I love Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp, it doesn't make sense to start with those guys in our lineup. So the first guy we should be looking at is Jamar Chase at $7,900. Really expensive on FanDuel. It's $8,700. Better of a DK play, but this is DraftKings that we are building our lineup for. So Chase makes a ton of sense here, especially since T. Higgins looks pretty iffy to play. Surprisingly got into practice this week dealing with a rib issue. So if he does play, I mean, I'm not sure it's going to really hurt Jamar Chase too much anyway, because, you know, Chase is a stud and he can still get there even with T. Higgins plays. But if he's out, I mean, we're just forced into more targets. Now the defense can key in on him more, but we'll take the volume increase any single day. And again, the Cardinals defense, nothing to be too concerned about. And then I also like Tyler Boyd down there at $4,500. Mainly the slot guy, but again, if T. Higgins is out, just opens up more targets in that offense. And if you're looking for the run back options for Arizona, you could look at the rookie Michael Wilson, but Marquise Brown's gonna be my main guy here if I'm not using Zach Ertz. He comes in at $5,000, and they should be trailing in this game. And he's getting 8 targets per game, 40% target share of the team's air yards, 70% win opportunity share, and just under a 30% target share this season. So you're just looking for a guy that's going to get volume and a run back option that has upside. Marquise Brown makes a ton of sense. You have Kirk Cousins, Justin Jefferson, running back with the Travis Kelce. If you have Tua, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, those are your 2 main threats every single week. You want to throw in Braxton Berrios in the pool, you can. Matthew Stafford, we have Cooper Kupp and Puka Nacua, and this is probably the biggest talking point of the week. Is Puka going to completely gone to the shadow realm, or is he going to be completely busy still with Cooper Kupp back? Is Puka going to be the new alpha dog in this offense? I would say no to that. Although since this is the first week back, it's probably going to be pretty split up. I'm not sure how heavily involved Cooper Kupp is going to be. They say there shouldn't be any limitations, but you never know if he re-aggravates the hamstring issue, which those can be nagging throughout the entire season. But I don't think they bring him back if he isn't ready. He's probably 80-90%. Which at this point of the season, most of the NFL is probably right around 80-90% anyway, so it's not like him not being 100% is going to put him too far behind. He looked good in the drills. I saw him practice on Twitter, so we'll see what happens there. I am fine with both. I mean, if Cooper Kupp is going to be regular Cooper Kupp, $8,600 in a good game overall, I mean, I'll take that in tournaments. He should be pretty low owned. So Kupp, Puka, I think both are playable. As of right now, I have Puka and Kupp both right around 14, 15 points, I believe. If Kupp was out, which he's not, but beforehand, I had Puka right around 18, 19 points. So just try to give you guys an idea of how much it affected him. And obviously, Cooper Kupp, Puka will be the 2 main threats, and then Tutu, Van Jefferson, they're going to be kind of pushed out pretty much. And Tyler Higbee will still get targets here and there. But again, big talking point this week. Puka, for his price point, it looks a little bit better for me over Kupp. But if it's just regular Kupp, a guy that averages around 25, 26 fantasy points per game with Matthew Stafford, it's hard not to have interest. And this is probably the lowest ownership you'll get on Cooper Kupp all season long. AJ Brown in that same game, if you have Jalen Hurts or Matthew Stafford, makes sense as a run back option. Same with Devontae Smith. Garrett Wilson's fine as a one-off. I know some people were talking about the New York Jets offense overall, like even playing Zach Wilson. I can't personally do it, but if you want to use Wilson as a one-off, because they weren't terrible last week. He had 14 targets, and this is about as good of a matchup as you can get versus the Denver Broncos. I don't mind it because the talent is there. Tank Dell's fine as a one-off just because the kid's a stud. 6 targets per game, over 60 yards. It's not bad for under 5K. And then Wan'Dale Robinson, $3,000. If you were stacking up Miami, he is an easy run back option to make these stacks work, and he's completely free. Like, it does not get cheaper than Robinson here at $3,000 at the wide receiver position. And it's not like we're really scrapping for yards here. Like, on the season, he's averaging just over 30 yards per game. I believe his Vegas props were around 30 yards. And he's getting you 4.5 catches, 5.5 targets, 15.6% target share. I know it's a small sample size, but I feel like that's a realistic number that we can project him for each week. And at $3,000 in a perfect game script where they should be trailing double digits in this game on the road, makes a lot of sense. And if we can get 5+ targets, we'll take that at 3K all day. All right, moving back over to our build here, we have to complete the game stack. So it's pretty obvious where we're going. We have Joe Burrow, so we need a pass catcher or 2. Then we'd like to run it back with probably Marquise Brown, although we could always run it back with Zach Ertz instead. So I'll leave the 3rd spot blank. But let's get a double stack going here with Jamar Chase at $7,900. And then we also have Tyler Boyd down here at $4,500. Now that's with the assumption that T. Higgins is out. I'm recording this on Friday night, so maybe we get some news. If T. Higgins happens to play, I'm probably not going to be too interested in Tyler Boyd. But you get the idea of the roster construction we were going with. So no matter who your quarterback is, I would use a similar technique here. If it's Matthew Stafford, 2 pass catchers, or whoever the quarterback is. Then we have tight ends and defenses. Usually can kind of breeze through this quickly because there's not much to talk about. Tight ends usually a pretty bad position. It all really comes down to how much can I afford, and I'll just throw in the last guy that fits. So the top dogs up top here are going to be Travis Kelce, TJ Hawkinson, and they're in the same game. So work either way with your stack. Just play whoever fits the best. Although if you have Patrick Mahomes, I just think it's kind of foolish not to play Travis Kelce with them. And then Hawkinson, you don't have to play him with Kirk Cousins, but if you are double stacking, he makes the most sense. But just extremely consistent, and the ceilings are extremely high. Sam Laporta, there is a chance that we have like 3 receivers missing on the Detroit Lions, and we also have Jahmyr Gibbs dealing with an injury. Now, I'm assuming most of them end up playing, although Sam Brown is doubtful. But if they happen to be out, I mean, Laporta's already been great this year. Super consistent, super solid. Maybe the talent is there, and always a threat in the red zone. Big body around there. But if they're out, I mean, that's just more targets for Laporta. So $5,000, while he's not like free or anything, it's still a decent price point. Higbee takes a hit with Cooper Kupp being back, just less targets to go around, but still 100% in play just for game stacks. And then Zach Ertz, pretty much my favorite tight end on the slate once you factor in the price point. He's had at least 8 targets in, I believe, 3 out of 4 games, and 10 targets in 2 out of 4. Only had 1 bad game versus, I believe it was the 49ers, where he only had 2 targets in the game. It was either the 49ers or the Cowboys, I forget. Either way, 7.5 targets per game in the season, 24% target share. Hard to pass up at that price point. And then as for the defenses, like I always say, let's scroll down to the bottom and find the lowest total possible. That would make sense for a build here. And as you can see, the Titans are probably going to be the chalk defense of the week. $2,400, 20 point implied team total, 2.5 point favorites, facing a rookie quarterback who I realize has been very good this year. But still, I'll take it all day at $2,400. Really opens up your salary. The Saints Patriots has a really low total here at 39.5. Then we also have the Steelers at 38 point over under, which should be a low scoring game. But they're facing the Ravens, and we know the Ravens can put up points here and there. So honestly, for me, I'm playing a lot of the Titans this weekend. I'll get exposure to the Saints and Patriots, and then the Steelers if I just happen to be in a pinch right there. All right, so heading over to our build here, we got to finish it off. We have 4 spots remaining. The first thing I'm going to do, because I'm not going to use Marquise Brown in this one just because I want to fill it out with the tight end position being Zach Ertz, and I want to double stack, this double run back stack here. So let's plug in Zach Ertz at $3,500. I like the Titans defense. They're cheap, $2,400. They make the most sense to me. If we go that route, we have $6,300 left for our last 2 spots. So we kind of have free range to do whatever we want, which is nice. If you wanted to go the 3 running back build, which I don't really think I've done much at all this year, especially on DraftKings, I prefer getting that extra wide receiver in just because, wide receivers are king these days. Back in the day, I'd always pick a wide receiver. But if we plug Bijan in the flex spot, we have $5,000. And I know I said I didn't want to do it, but if you wanted to, you could go with Marquise Brown there for the double stack. I wouldn't hate it. But if you don't want to get that many Cardinals in your lineup, you have Tank Dell there at $4,800. But overall, that's a pretty good roster construction. So we have Joe Burrow double stack with Jamar Chase, Tyler Boyd, David Montgomery, Raheem Mostert at running back. Just trying to get a little bit different to not have Devon Achane there. I like the Mostert pivot. Obviously, it doesn't project as well, but I mean, it's pretty close. We have Bijan down there just to try a 3 running back build, which is not something I've been doing this year. Then we have Titans defense at the end, and then we're left with that open spot, which use to your own imagination. But overall, looks pretty good. Do not copy and paste this, guys, though. This is just something I built using the players that we talked about. Not saying it's a bad lineup, but I recommend to copy and paste this. Use your own lineups, use your own builds, and your own imagination. But if you apply similar techniques and strategies, I think you'll be well on your way to having successful single entry tournament type builds. And like I said, I just went on the optimizer here to see who is popping with the current projections that we have in place. Obviously, there could be some changes to this, especially ownership wise as we get closer to lock, or just guys end up getting ruled out. So I don't think this is the end all be all. But I did run 150 laps really quick here with a little bit of randomness and just some quick stacking settings. And also I get people asking me every week what optimizer this is. There's just mine on the site that I have. So if you guys ever want to try it out, use it. It's got a lot of projections on there. You just got to refresh it and it'll populate every time I update it. You'll find that on the Patreon link down below in the description or the pinned comment. You can try it out completely free for a week if you want to just get your feet wet. Let's go over to the builds here and see what popped up just on a quick 150 run. Not too much time put into it exposure wise or anything like that. So Montgomery, Wan'Dale Robinson, all popping in a ton, which I get it. Robinson makes pretty much any lineup you want work. And my projections love Miami this week. So if it's looking for a run back option, Robinson is pretty much the only guy from New York it's going to want because he's cheap. He's going to get volume. And it's just really hard to pass up at $3,000 when he's projected within like around 9 to 11 points, depending on the randomness that you're looking at. A lot of Alvin Kamara, Tyreek Hill, Achane, Zach Ertz, Titans. Tua looks like he's the highest quarterback getting jammed in there. And as you can see, looking at the build, should be following the rules that we put in place. So at least one pass catcher and one run back option. So we have Tua with Tyreek Hill, running back with Wan'Dale Robinson. And if you want to make a role where you don't want the running backs put in there as well, you can do that, but I didn't do it for just my quick run there. Looking at the teams that's putting in the most, Miami, Detroit, New York, Arizona, which all makes sense to me. Games, Miami, New York, just getting thrown in there a ton. Like I said, if I didn't use them in the first look video, I would have done it for this one, but that's definitely the game I'm targeting a lot. Detroit, Carolina, Arizona, Cincy, New Orleans, and the Patriots, but a lot of that's just due to the running back position where Dave Montgomery, Alvin Kamara get jammed in a ton. But again, guys, just try to give you like a landscape view for those of you that don't have an optimizer. This is pretty much what the industry is going to like because I can't imagine I'm too far off of anybody else. With that being said, guys, that's all I got for you this week. So I hope you did enjoy. And if you did, even if you didn't, leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet done so. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, leave them down below. More than happy to get back to you. But I wish you all the best of luck, and I'll see you all next time.